Anxiety is a very common complaint these days. People are overwhelmed with all the demands, sudden demands that happen, especially after the COVID, the lockdown, the change of patterns of life. So they feel kind of quite anxious, and that kind of sets the response of fight, flight, and freeze response. They feel loss of control, and they don't know what to do. So I'm here to help you deal with these anxieties when you feel them. A few tips that you can use your own self, your own body, to be able to control this anxiety and get back and reset to a calmer place. Usually when we are anxious, we go into what we call a child ego state. An ego state is how we think, feel, and behave at any time. So when you go into child, it is really triggers that part of you where it is emotional, it has memories, it has things from the past that might have affected you. So these kind of memories and traumas will be probably triggered when you go in that state, and that's why it is not a helpful state to think and to do the right things. What you need is to bring yourself from that child state to the adult state where you can behave and feel and think as an adult. So when we get anxious, our response, because it's fight or flight or freeze, usually what happens is that we have heart palpitation, breathing becomes very fast and shallow. So to reverse that, because you can't do that to the heartbeat because it's outside your control, but your breathing is semi-automatic. So what you can do is to control your breathing yourself. So instead of breathing like this, you can always breathe in very deeply. Just force yourself to breathe in that way. And what happens with that, of course, it will send the message to the amygdala in the brain that sets off the anxious feeling that everything is fine. Because you cannot be anxious, you cannot be under attack, and you can't breathe this way. So it will calm down that part of your brain, and you become quieter. So that's the first step. The first step is to breathe in, breathe out a few times, maybe 6, 7, 10 times, until you feel that you came back to a good state. So once you get back to a calmer state by breathing deeply, you will be able to ask yourself a question. What am I anxious about? But say it out loud. Don't say it in your brain, in your head. Say it out loud, because out loud means almost like the adult is talking to the child. So the child will listen and say, "Oh, I'm very worried about this. And the adult will look at it and say, "Right, is this something outside our control or not under our control?" And it will become very quite obvious to the adult that this is either under his control or outside his control. If it is outside your control, the adult will say, "Well, why are you worried about something that you can't control?" However, but if it is under your control, then the adult will be able, from that state, will be able to come back with some options. Say, "All right, so how can I solve this?" And the mind starts seeking solutions. And usually there are always more than one option. And the more option that you find, the calmer you become, and the faster you return to a really good state. If you ask yourself, what am I anxious about, and you cannot find anything, it's just a feeling that you are feeling very, very anxious, but really no real thing happening that is making you anxious. In that case, it must have been triggered by some sort of unconscious thought So you need to just accept that. It's unconscious thought, something triggered from the past, something similar happened to you in the past, and you are not aware of it. Not everything that human beings are aware of, but it's the feeling that you follow. And when that feeling happens and there are no real issues, real problems happening, all you need to do is say, well, it's happening, so I understand that, so I accept it, understand that it's normal. People feel anxious when something is triggered. So what you do, there are no solutions to find, all these things. What you need to do is just to find a way to distract yourself. Do something else. So direct your thoughts somewhere else. Maybe read something or call a friend, kind of thing. Make yourself a cup of tea. Anything that look at your phone and play a game. Anything that can distract your thought, take your thought from where it is somewhere else. And that within a couple of minutes, you find yourself a lot calmer. What I suggest to you is to practice these tips every time you feel anxious, until the practice will become a habit, an automatic response to anxiety. And by doing so, your anxiety becomes less severe and less frequent. So to conclude, anxiety is a very normal feeling, human feeling. We all feel anxious from time to time. But now that you know how to control these anxious feelings, simply by bringing yourself to the adult, by breathing deeply a few times, asking yourself the right questions, if there is a question to be asked. Otherwise, if it is just a feeling, you just accept it and say, well, this is anxious. Maybe smile even, and distract yourself by any means that you like, whether it's calling a friend, playing a game, making yourself a cup of tea, whatever that's appropriate for you.